If you happen to be new at PREPSTEADERS, you may be wondering, where do you even start when it comes to learning how to cook and how to preserve food? Well, today I'm going to give you, in the order of what I think I would recommend for you to buy, the first 8 elements that you want to get started on that food preparation and preservation journey. Don't go away. If you happen to be new at PREPSTEADING, you might recognize that it's hard to know where to even start. What is the priority? And in this one little area, I want to tell you some priorities that you might think about to budget for in the days to come if you're trying to be ready in food preparation and preservation. So, I also want to give these to you in the order I would purchase them if I were in your shoes just starting out. Some of these are expensive, some are inexpensive. So stick with me through the whole list. There's going to be something here that you might want to put on your wish list today. If I think about the very most simple, I'm going to start with a grill. And yes, all of us probably have some sort of grill around the house or out in the barn, or a barbecue grill on your back porch. I hope you do. If you don't, you can probably budget about $1 to $2 at the dollar store even to get yourself some sort of small grill like this. It's not going to hold up forever, but it is super light, and thankfully with a grill this size or even smaller, I can cook over a candle flame. I can cook over the stove, I could cook over a campfire or over coals. It's extremely versatile. I can make a Swedish fire torch over a log or some bricks and have myself a little grilling surface to cook almost any kind of food. I want you to think about that and at least start there if you haven't started there already. That's the first thing. Now, along that lines, I'm going to mention something you may have never even heard of before, and that's a discada. The reason I mention this is because it is on my wish list. I don't own one of these just yet, but I happened to watch a video blog on YouTube, and the couple that cooks almost exclusively outdoors uses a discada to cook just about everything. And I want to encourage you, go over to their channel. I don't know who they are, but I love watching them. Their simple way of living is so beautiful and peaceful, and they can seem to cook everything over this. It's kind of like a plow that has been inverted. So you kind of have a surface that is bowl-like, but also a frying surface. And it generally stands on its own set of legs, either a tripod style or 4 legs with kind of a circle that holds that disc above the flame, and is absolutely useful for any kind of outdoor cooking. Now, I have looked at these and they are more expensive. The lesser expensive ones are going to run you about $70, maybe up to $150 or even $200. A lot of them are custom made, so they can be even more expensive. But I do think it's a worthy investment, and if you look into it, you might agree with me. Think about that, but fantastic for cooking outdoors. Next, I'm going to encourage you something as simple as a slow cooker inside. This is a little bit more upscale than some of the basic ones. In fact, the other one that I have that I cook in just as often as this beautiful Kasori in front of me is a little, just 1 gallon sized. I got it for $10, and it has a low and a high setting, but I can go off at work for the whole day and come back and my meal is completely ready for me. You'll want to look at the episode we have on that if you haven't ever cooked in a hot crock pot or such. You're going to just love learning because it's that simple. The one thing I would just recommend is make sure you get the kind that the inside actually lifts out, because if it's all connected as one, it does make it difficult to clean. And when it lifts out like this, you can throw that in the refrigerator or clean it easily. This Kasori is a little bit more fancy than just the low and high setting $10 version that I've got. This Kasori will steam rice, it will make yogurt, it will roast. I have fried things in here before. It will help your bread rise. There is just an immense amount of things that this will do, and you can manually change the settings on it, and I have found it to be one of the best purchases. So I've got a link down below if you want to check out this version of the Cosori. Some of you have transferred your love over to an Instapot, and I do like those, but I don't highly recommend them so much because they often are almost like a cop-out. You forget how to cook if you have something that you can just push a button and let it do everything for you. This kind of cooking where you do have control over it, I can take the lid off and monitor what's going on. It helps me a whole lot in that process and the learning that it gives me to know how to cook inside and outdoors. And that leads me to the next thing I want to recommend, and that is a Dutch oven. I don't know of a better invention in all of history for cooking in. The kind of Dutch oven that I recommend is going to be fully cast iron. It's going to have a good, strong bail on top. I want you to get the kind, preferably, that has the legs on the bottom. Some of you have the pretty version that just goes on top of your stove to cook stews in. But if you get the ones with legs, you can use it in your oven, you could use it on your stovetop, you can use it outside over a campfire or over coals or on the grill. It's absolutely more versatile that way. And also make sure you get the kind that has the lipped edge on that lid so that it could have coals on top of it. Or if you needed to turn the lid over, you could even use that nice inverted surface as kind of a makeshift discada, like I mentioned earlier. You're going to find a Dutch oven is able to do all the things I just mentioned that this will do. It will let you bake. It will let you fry and saute. And I have made everything from pies and cakes and cookies in them and pizzas. There is almost nothing more versatile that you're going to find invented for cooking than a Dutch oven. So that is an absolute top priority. Don't miss this one on the list. A good one of those is going to cost you perhaps as much as $50 up to $120, depending on how small or large the Dutch oven is that you get. It's worth every penny, and it'll probably outlive you by several hundred years and be useful to hand down to even generations beyond you. Okay, that's just the first four. Now I want us to think about food preservation. In other words, taking that food that we've cooked and now making it last for the long haul. This is one of the oldest and most useful elements that you can put in your kitchen. This is a water bath canner, and if you haven't gotten one already, they are not that expensive. I'm guessing you could get one for about $30 with everything inside of it that it needs to can all kinds of wonderful foods. This is what you're going to use if you're making jams or jellies or canning tomatoes, canning different kind of fruits and things like that. Lots of vegetables you can can in here. This does not can everything, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but a water bath canner is easy to learn how to use, and that's why I would recommend it earlier down on this list. Get yourself one, play with it, and recognize all of the things that you can use it for to preserve food for about 3 to 5 years out. Please remember as I go, these are baby steps that you take. You don't do all of these things I'm suggesting at one time. I have no intention of overwhelming you, and I want this to be helpful. So the next thing I'm going to mention after the water bath canning is learning how to dehydrate food. And yes, you could do this as cheaply as for free if you learn the methods of doing this outside with no electricity. I will say it works best if you don't have a high humidity in your environment, and you do need some wind and some heat to make this work well, but you could do it even for free. Now, incidentally, you could also get something as cheaply as $20 or $30 for a small dehydrator at Walmart or Target or something like that. I personally love the Excalibur food dehydrator, and if you can afford to get one, please do. Graciously, one of you PREPSTEADERS, Brian Pierce, a couple of years ago sent it as a gift to us, and I have used it faithfully and so much to preserve the harvest. Everything from fruits and vegetables and berries and herbs and spices, everything you can grow in the garden, just about all of it exclusively could go in that Excalibur and turn into something that's going to preserve for anything from 1 to 3 to 5 years. And most recently, which you'll see in a future video, I've been able to use the Excalibur, which is kind of in the shape of a box if you didn't notice. I love that I can take the trays out and actually turn it into a biltong box. You may not know what that is. We'll cover it in a different video episode, but you're going to love to learn how to make your own biltong. And I am thrilled to say that the Excalibur, being the shape that it is and the way that it's made, works perfectly even to make that meat preserved for maybe as long as 20 years ahead. So get creative. You can use these for all kinds of things, from even making yogurt and things like that in your food dehydrator. It isn't just for dehydrating food. Now let's go to pressure canning, because pressure canning is going to allow you to preserve the harvest from so many different kinds of foods that you can't just do in the water bath canning. It lets you preserve the most delicious. I will never forget how delicious my grandmother's canned roast beef was. She made it so perfect it just melted in your mouth, and you have to have a pressure canner for that to work. You can't try and do it in the oven or over a campfire in a water bath canner or anything like that. So a pressure canner is going to let you do those low acid foods that you want to preserve for a long time. And proteins are of most importance, so learning different methods of preserving meat is going to be to your benefit in the future. So learning how to dehydrate meat, that biltong that I just mentioned, and now over into pressure canning meat, that's going to help you have a protein source that's delicious and long lasting. There are a whole lot of brands of canners out there. I would highly recommend. Save your money. It's not a cheap investment, but the All-American brand of pressure canner has been around for so many years and proven itself to be the most reliable. I would highly recommend that you save your money for that. It was, though, for me, an investment of close to $300. So it's not a simple one that you just are going to buy at the dollar store like that first grill we mentioned. All right, the next thing I want to talk about you may have not even heard about, but each year I try to take another baby step in the right direction. And this year I had the privilege of getting to go up to Ohio, where I got to visit Lehmans hardware store in Kidron, Ohio. What an incredible place that is. They are all about the simpler life and Amish-made tools and helpful appliances that are not powered by any electricity. This was one of the things that I got there, and I love it. It's a steam juicer, and you may be very familiar with it. I was not, but you fill the bottom part with some water. You leave this secondary portion just as it is, and then the top carries the fruit or whatever you put in the top. Then it has this contraption on the side, which is so interesting. It's kind of a rubber hose with this clamped off valve, and you just get ready. So once this steam heats up in here, it extracts everything that is good and nourishing and fruitful out of the fruit and leaves the fruit as it is. And the cool thing about it is that you can put in whole fruits. Now, it does make sense to at least cut the apple in half to make it easy for that juice to extract out of the apple, but you can put it in with the core, with the stems. I've even put tomatoes in with the green stems they come with. You don't have to take the seeds out of anything. This just is going to literally turn that fruit into a pulp and extract in a type of concentrated form that wonderful juice. So think about this. If you have ever wanted to make your own grape juice, you literally just buy the grapes from the store or pick them off of your grapevines yourself, bring them inside and just rinse them off and put the whole thing, vines and all, right into this, and it will extract the juice out of it. It's concentrated, it's amazingly delicious, and so much healthier than anything you're going to buy in the stores. So I have been able to extract the juice of fruits that I hadn't even thought of before. I'll give you an example. You know, and some of you will tell me I'm being controversial, but you know that you're told often that poke berries are completely poisonous, when in fact, it's not that the berries are poisonous, it's that they have a big old seed inside and very little fruit, and the fruit is really not super exciting to eat itself. But if you're able to just not even pull them off the stems, just take the bunches of pokeberries, throw them in the top here, you can extract the juice out without ever puncturing those very toxic seeds that are in those berries, and you can make jams and jellies and things like that out of it. The amazing thing about this is that it's going to pasteurize that juice that you extract. So it's going to last a whole lot longer than juice that you just squeeze out of fruits. Now, this is not going to cost you a whole lot. In fact, I think I spent about $35 for this. Very, very much feel like it was a worthy investment, and I would strongly recommend it to you after you do a little research and see what you can't find on it. Lastly, I want to talk to you about freeze drying. This is not for the weak of wallet. If you don't have a little bit of money to spend, this is not one of the things that you want to buy right now. But it might be something to put on your wish list and budget for and save for, because in my opinion, it's one of the wisest investments you can make, considering food preservation for 5, 10, 15, even 20 or 30 years down the road, that's going to retain quality and nutrition and some sort of enjoyable experience when you put that food into your mouth. Interestingly, supply chains are breaking down right now, and we've heard of more that could happen in the near future. And so it's more of something to think about now than we ever have before. How do I prepare my own home so that we don't run low on anything, whether it's tomorrow that this happens or 10 years down the road? Freeze drying is exceptionally effective at giving you high nutrition, good quality food for the long run. Now, the Harvest Right freeze dryer is what I have, and it is an investment, but it is absolutely worthwhile. It's going to cost you anywhere from about $1,000 to $3,000 or $4,000 if you get the small, medium, or large, depending on all of that, and what kind of extras you might need with it to make the whole system work, so that you not only have a way to freeze dry the food, but immediately put those into some type of a oxygen-free environment, so it's going to keep for that 30 years that you're hoping for. Freeze drying is that process where it cools the food clear down far below zero, and then when it gets to that very deepest freeze, it warms it up quickly. And so no water comes out so much as just the water that is frozen turns to vapor and evaporates. Isn't that incredible? I have freeze dried everything I can get my hands on since I've gotten this, and I love it, and it has been an incredible success for enjoyment as well as the preservation of food. So I can't recommend it highly enough. I just know it's an investment for those of you that's probably further down the list than that very first thing that you're going to buy if you're just getting started. I know I've just scratched the surface. I know there are other items that you would probably put on your list. And if you would, share those below this episode, because we want to hear from you. What would you add to this list as an absolute necessity to either get now or put on a wish list to budget for the future in food preparation and preservation? I hope you take the time to share this video with somebody that you love. I hope you take the time to start thinking seriously about preparing for the days to come. There is so much we can learn from looking back and noticing what's going on in our present day to prepare for what might come tomorrow. Not in fear, but in wisdom. All right, we'll see you next time. And until then, will you go out and be a blessing to somebody this week? God bless you. Bye-bye. Before you go, may I share a quick word out of the Holy Bible with you? This is something King David wrote in Psalm 112, verses 6 through 8. He said this: "For the righteous will never be moved. He will be remembered forever. He's not afraid of bad news, and his heart is firm, trusting the Lord. His heart is steady. He will not be afraid until he looks in triumph on his adversaries. Now go spread the word.